My name's Lena, and I've been working the night shift at a 24-hour laundromat in a small Ohio town off Interstate 70 for nearly a year. It's a rundown place, a concrete box in a dying strip mall next to a greasy diner that closes at dusk and a pawn shop with flickering neon. The air smells of dryer sheets, stale coffee, and the faint gasoline from trucks passing by. The fluorescent lights hum like a swarm of bees, casting jittery shadows across rows of ancient washers that rattle like they're on their last legs. I took the job to save for nursing school, studying online between folding towels for truckers, night owls, and the occasional drifter looking for a warm place to loiter. Most shifts are dead quiet, just the machine's hum and the buzz of a half-broken radio playing Johnny Cash. There's a buzzer on the door that screeches when someone enters, and a grainy security camera that's more for show than function, but I never felt unsafe until last month, when the place started feeling wrong. This town's got its share of ghost stories. My co-worker, Jake, a lanky guy who works days, told me over Cokes at the diner that the laundromat used to be a hangout for sketchy types in the 80s. Drifters, petty crooks, even whispers of a worker who vanished one night, leaving only her apron behind. A regular old man Carter, a grizzled guy who washes his work shirts here, warned me about strangers after midnight. He said it with a squint, like he'd seen things he wouldn't share. I laughed it off, but 3 weeks ago, weird stuff started happening. I found a crumpled note under a washer. "They're watching." The ink was smeared, like it was written in a panic. I showed Jake, but he said it was probably teens screwing around. Still, I started double-checking the locks, especially on nights when the fog rolled off the fields, turning the parking lot into a gray abyss. 2 weeks back, I got a voicemail at 3 a.m. No number, just static and a muffled voice saying, "Lena, you're alone." I thought it was a prank, but the next night, the camera caught a flicker, a shadow outside, too tall to be a customer, gone when I checked. Then, a week ago, a woman in a dark coat came in. Didn't wash anything, just stared at me for 10 minutes before leaving a Polaroid on the counter, a blurry shot of the laundromat's front, time-stamped that night. I told Jake, but he rolled his eyes, saying I was letting the night shift get to me. I couldn't quit, though. School loans were piling up, and my mom's medical bills weren't cheap. So I kept working, my nerves fraying with every creak of the building. It was a Wednesday, 1:30 a.m., and I was restocking detergent, the radio crackling with Ring of Fire. The buzzer screamed, and a guy walked in, early 30s, gray hoodie, faded jeans, carrying a small duffel bag. His eyes were wide, like he'd chugged a Red Bull too many, and his hands twitched as he gave me a quick nod. He headed to a washer in the far corner, away from the windows facing the foggy lot. I kept working, but my eyes stayed on him. Night shifts teach you to spot trouble, the ones who don't belong, the ones who linger too long. He didn't start his laundry. He sat on a bench, swiping on a phone with a black screen. No glow, just his finger moving like he was putting on a show. My stomach churned. He kept glancing at the door like he was waiting for someone, or something. I texted Jake, "Weird guy, might need you," but got no reply. The fog outside thickened, swallowing the streetlights, pressing against the windows like a ghost. I wiped down the counter, hands busy to hide my shaking, but my pulse was a drumbeat. I remembered Carter's warning, strangers after midnight. 10 minutes later, the buzzer screeched again. A woman entered, 50s, sharp bob haircut, wearing a red scarf that looked too fancy for this dead-end town. She flashed a smile, too wide, like a used car salesman, and said, "Chilly out there, huh, hun?" Her voice was smooth, but it had an edge, like she was sizing me up. I nodded, forcing a smile, and she went to a machine near the guys, but they didn't look at each other. Her movements were stiff, like she was acting in a play, sorting a pile of rags. Nothing worth washing. My skin crawled. I felt like a bug under a magnifying glass, watched, studied. I kept an eye on them, pretending to organize soap bottles. The guy finally started his washer, but it was just one sock, drowned in detergent that foamed over like a chemical spill. He sat back down, still checking the door. The woman kept glancing at me, her smile fixed, her hands fidgety, nails chewed to stubs. I tried to call Jake, but my phone showed no service. Impossible, since the signal's always fine. The radio static surged, drowning out Johnny Cash, and I swore I heard a whisper. Lena. My name, low and deliberate. I froze, telling myself it was my head playing tricks, but the air felt heavy, the lights dimmer, like the laundromat was holding its breath. The woman approached the counter, her scarf brushing the edge, leaving a faint whiff of menthol. You look beat, she said, her voice syrupy, almost mocking. These graveyard shifts gotta suck. Ever think about an easier gig? My friend hires for late-night jobs. Big money, no hassle. She leaned closer, her eyes locked on mine. You'd be a star, Lena. My heart stopped. I never gave her my name. I forced a laugh, saying I was good, but my hands shook. She slid a business card across, blank, except for a smudged phone number and a symbol like the one on the note. Keep it in mind, she said, her smile sharpening into something predatory. I pocketed the card, planning to toss it, and glanced at the guy. He was staring now, openly, hands in his pockets, a bulge under his hoodie, maybe a knife, maybe worse. The radio static spiked again, my name clearer, hissed through the speakers like a threat. I was about to call 911 when the buzzer rang. A man walked in, tall, bearded, in a flannel jacket, carrying a laundry basket. He didn't look at me, just went to a dryer and started loading clothes. Relief hit me. Another person meant I wasn't alone. But his clothes were dry, ironed, like they'd never needed washing. He didn't start the dryer, just kept shoving them in, his movements mechanical, like a robot on repeat. My relief evaporated. The woman whispered to the hoodie guy, their eyes flicking between me and the bearded man, subtle nods passing like a signal. I grabbed my phone, still no signal, and started dialing 911 under the counter. The lights flickered, then died, plunging the laundromat into pitch black. The machine stopped, the silence choking. I held my breath, hearing a shuffle outside, then a whisper through the dark. Lena, come out. My blood ran cold. The darkness lasted 15 seconds, each one an eternity. I fumbled for the flashlight, my hands trembling so bad I knocked over a soap bottle. It crashed, the sound deafening in the silence. When the lights returned, the woman was gone, her machine still running with rags, suds dripping like slime. The hoodie guy was closer, by the counter, holding a folded note with that symbol scratched into it. The bearded man was gone, his dryer open, empty. I bolted to the back office, but the lock jammed, the key sticking like it had been sabotaged. I yanked it free, locked the door, and called 911, my voice cracking. Footsteps circled outside, multiple sets, heavy, deliberate. Something scraped the door, like a blade carving wood, and my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, showing the torn business card and the message, "You forgot this, Lena." Attached was a Polaroid of me at the counter, taken from inside, time-stamped right then. I clutched a metal chair, ready to swing, my breath ragged. A shadow passed under the door, too long, too wrong. The scraping stopped, but a low laugh echoed outside, chilling my bones. The buzzer sounded again, then silence. The police arrived in 15 minutes, finding the laundromat empty. No woman, no hoodie guy, no bearded man. The camera's plug was yanked out, no footage. The note read, "They're watching. Next shift." The card's number traced to a burner phone, dead end. The cops said it might be a trafficking scam, but they couldn't explain the radio, my name, or the Polaroid. They found scratches on the office door, deep, like claw marks, with that symbol etched beside them. I quit the next day. Jake swore he never got my texts, but his phone showed them red, and he wouldn't look at me when I pressed him. The laundromat gets calls from that burner number, asking if I'm working. Old Man Carter stopped coming, but he left a note at the diner. They're still watching. I've moved twice, but every night at 1:30 a.m., my phone rings. No caller ID, just static, and my name whispered. Last week, I found a sock on my doorstep, soaked in detergent, with that symbol scratched into it. I hear washers humming outside my apartment, even in the new town, and sometimes in the fog, I see shadows moving in the parking lot, watching, waiting. My name's Ethan, and I worked the night desk at a crumbling motel off a lonely highway in rural Nebraska for nearly a year. The place was a relic, fading neon sign buzzing like a dying insect, rooms smelling of burnt coffee, cigarette smoke, and damp carpet, windows rattling in the prairie wind. It sat across from a 24-hour diner with flickering lights and a gas station that closed at dusk, the kind of spot truckers, drifters, and lost tourists hit for a cheap bed. My job was simple. Check guests in, hand out keys, and watch the lot through a grainy security monitor. I worked alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., which suited me. I liked the quiet, the way the stars lit up the endless fields. But 3 weeks ago, that quiet turned into a nightmare. The motel had a bad reputation. Locals called it the vanishing stop, whispering about travelers who checked in during the 70s and never checked out. My boss, Carla, a chain-smoking woman with bags under her eyes, told me to ignore the gossip, but always lock the office before leaving. A month ago, I found an old guest book in a drawer, its pages yellowed, listing John Doe in room 13, a room we don't rent because of mold and a busted heater. The entries went back decades, always the same name, same room, sometimes with "never left" scribbled beside it. When I asked Carla, she snapped, "Drop it, kid," her hands shaking as she lit a cigarette. Her reaction stuck with me. 3 weeks before the incident, a trucker checked in and mentioned seeing a guy standing in the lot at dawn, just staring at the motel. "Gave me the creeps," he said, tossing me a crumpled $5 for a tip. I brushed it off, but the next night, the landline rang at 4 a.m. No one spoke, just heavy breathing, then a click. The caller ID showed the motel's own number, which shouldn't have been possible. I checked every room, empty, doors locked. The night after, the security monitor flickered, showing a shadow by room 13's door before cutting to static. I started keeping a flashlight and a crowbar under the desk, my nerves fraying. I couldn't quit, though. College was a pipe dream, and I was saving every dime to get out of this dead-end town. A week later, I found a note slipped under the office door. "They see you, Ethan." The handwriting was jagged, like it was scratched in a hurry. I showed Carla, but she said it was probably a prank, her eyes darting away. At the diner across the road, a waitress, Margie, who'd lived here forever, overheard me talking to a coworker. She pulled me aside and whispered about a guest who vanished from room 13 years ago, leaving only a blood-stained keycard. "This place ain't right," she said, her voice low. I laughed it off, but I started noticing things. A Polaroid of the motel's front left on the desk, time-stamped midnight, the vending machine humming even when unplugged. My keys moved when I left them unattended. The motel felt alive, watching me. It was a Thursday, 3 a.m., the wind howling like a banshee. I was half asleep, my phone playing a true crime podcast, my favorite murder, when the bell above the door jingled. A man walked in, mid-40s, clean-shaven, in a pressed button-up and glasses, looking like an accountant, not a highway wanderer. He smiled, too smooth, and said, "Need a room, buddy? No reservation." His voice was calm, rehearsed, like he'd practiced it. I asked for ID, but he said he'd left it in his car, his eyes flicking to the security monitor behind me, like he knew its blind spots. I told him I couldn't check him in without ID. He nodded, still smiling, and said, "No worries, I'll grab it." He walked to a dark SUV in the lot but didn't open the door, just stood there, back to the camera, motionless, like a statue. My gut screamed he was stalling. I locked the front door and watched the monitor. He turned, his glasses catching the neon glow, staring straight at the camera, his smile gone. The podcast glitched, looping one word, gone. I shut it off, hands shaking, and the landline rang. A woman's voice, raspy, said, "Check the back door, Ethan." The line went dead. My heart stopped. The back door led to a service hallway. No cameras, just a fire exit chained shut. I grabbed the flashlight and crowbar, creeping to the hallway, my breath shallow. The chain was cut clean, the door ajar, letting in a draft that smelled of gasoline and wet dirt. I slammed it shut, locked it, and ran to the desk. The monitor flickered to static. When it cleared, the SUV was gone. No headlights, no engine noise, just an empty lot. My podcast started playing again, unprompted, whispering gone in a voice that wasn't the host's. I yanked the phone's battery out, but the whispering continued, echoing in my head. Then came the tapping, soft, rhythmic, on the lobby windows. The blinds were down, but a shadow moved outside, too tall to be the man, too thin to be human. I called 911, whispering to the dispatcher, my voice barely holding. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, a photo of the desk, with me holding the phone, taken from outside the window. The timestamp was 2 minutes ago. I locked myself in the office, crowbar gripped tight, and heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, like someone savoring the chase. The door handle rattled, just once, and I stifled a scream. The monitor flickered, showing room 13's door, which shouldn't have been on the feed. It was offline. The door was open, swinging slightly, a figure holding a key card just out of sight, their shadow stretching across the floor. The power cut out, plunging the office into darkness. The footsteps stopped, but a low laugh came through the door, chilling my bones. I fumbled for the flashlight, my hands slick with sweat, but the batteries were dead, though I'd checked them that morning. The darkness lasted 10 seconds, each one a lifetime until the lights flickered back. The monitor was blank, the footsteps gone, but a new Polaroid sat on the desk, me in the office, clutching the crowbar, time stamped that moment. I barricaded the door with a chair, my mind racing. How did they get inside? The dispatcher promised cops were minutes away, but the silence was worse than the noise. The police arrived at 3:45 a.m., finding nothing. No SUV, no man, no shadow. The back door's chain was cut with bolt cutters, no fingerprints. The landline call traced to the motel's own number, as if from an empty room. The text came from a burner phone, untraceable. The cops mentioned a cold case, a guest vanishing from room 13 in '89, leaving only a key card, but called it a prank. They found scratches on the office door, deep, like claw marks, with "gone" carved beside them. I quit the next morning. Carla handed me my paycheck, her hands trembling, and said, "Don't come back, Ethan." She wouldn't meet my eyes. A week later, Carla called. Someone checked in as Ethan Doe, paid cash, and left a note in room 13. "We're still here." The cops searched but found nothing, just another Polaroid of the empty room, time-stamped that night. I moved to a new state, crashing on a friend's couch, but the texts keep coming at 3 a.m. That same photo of me at the desk, sometimes with "gone" scrawled across it. Last week, I found a key card on my windshield, stamped with room 13 and a faint coffee stain. I burned it, but I hear tapping outside my window every night, and my phone picks up static, whispering my name. I've stopped staying in motels, but I can't shake the feeling that room 13 is still out there, waiting. My name's Sarah, and I work the night shift at a 24-hour pharmacy in a suburban Indiana town, in a strip mall with cracked pavement, a Taco Bell, and a nail salon that's always closed by dusk. The pharmacy is small, sterile, with flickering fluorescent lights, cluttered aisles of flu meds, and a drive-through window for late-night prescriptions. It smells of antiseptic, cheap coffee, and the faint grease from fast food bags left by customers. I handle the front, restocking shelves, ringing up sales, while Mike, the pharmacist, stays in the back, buried in paperwork. We get night owls, truckers, and parents grabbing meds for sick kids, especially after high school football games clear out. 2 cameras, one over the counter, one at the drive-thru, are old and grainy, but I always felt safe. That changed last week, and now I'm counting the days until I can quit. I'd been on edge for weeks. A month ago, I started getting spam emails for painkillers, addressed to Sarah Elizabeth, my full name, which I never use at work. They came daily, with subject lines like, "Your RX is ready, Sarah," or "Don't wait." I figured it was a data leak from some online shopping, but Mike and our coworkers got nothing like it. 3 weeks back, a regular, Mr. Thompson, an old guy who buys cough syrup, pulled me aside after paying. "Watch out for cars with no plates at night," he whispered, his eyes darting to the lot. He left before I could ask more, his warning sticking with me. I told Mike, but he laughed, saying the guy was just a paranoid retiree who watched too much true crime. 2 weeks ago, things got weirder. I found a pill bottle on the counter after closing, labeled Sarah Elizabeth, no prescription number, no doctor. It was empty, but the cap was loose, like someone had tampered with it. I threw it out, but my hands shook as I did. The next night, the radio, usually playing top 40 hits like Taylor Swift, started glitching, spitting static with a faint voice saying, "Take it, Sarah." I yanked the plug, but the static lingered in my head. I started checking the cameras obsessively, noticing shadows in the lot, dark shapes that vanished when I zoomed in. One night, I found my name tag moved to the wrong drawer, and a post-it on my locker read, "You're up next." I showed Mike, but he said it was probably a coworker's prank. I wasn't so sure. I couldn't afford to quit. College tuition was looming, and I was saving every penny to move to Indianapolis, away from this nowhere town. My parents couldn't help. They were barely scraping by, so I kept working, my nerves fraying with every late-night shift. Last week, a customer left a flyer on the counter for a night job easy cash, with no contact info, just my name scribbled in the corner. I tore it up, but the pharmacy started feeling wrong, like the walls were listening. It was a Monday, 2 a.m., the air thick with fog, the streetlights barely cutting through. I was sorting inventory, the radio playing Anti-Hero on low, when the drive-thru bell rang, sharp and jarring. A beat-up sedan idled outside, headlights off, engine rumbling like a growl. The driver was a woman, 30s, with stringy hair and a nervous smile that didn't reach her eyes. She slid a prescription slip through the slot, staring at me, unblinking. The slip was for a heavy painkiller, named to Sarah Elizabeth. My stomach dropped. I don't take meds like that, and nobody here knows my full name, not even Mike. I forced a smile, said it was a mistake. She shook her head, her voice flat. "No mistake, hon. It's for you." Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, like she was holding herself back. I slid the slip back, saying I'd check with Mike. She didn't move, just stared, her smile twitching like a broken toy. I showed Mike the slip in the back. His face paled, and he muttered, "If she's not gone in 5, I'm calling the cops." The radio static surged, whispering, "Take it, Sarah," in a voice that wasn't the DJ's. I grabbed a water bottle, hands trembling, and returned to the window. The sedan was gone, but the slip was still there, now with a post-it. "Take your meds, Sarah," in jagged, hurried handwriting. I locked the drive-thru, my heart pounding, and told Mike to check the cameras. The footage showed the sedan, but her face was blurred, smeared, like wet ink on a photo. Mike swore the camera was fine that morning. We called the police, but the bell rang again. A man stood at the window, tall baseball cap pulled low, face shadowed. He leaned in and asked, "Sarah feeling okay?" His voice was calm, mocking, like he knew something I didn't. I slammed the window shut and hit the panic button, my pulse racing. Mike bolted to lock the main door, and we waited, the radio static now a low hum of my name, over and over. I swore I saw a shadow flicker across the counter camera, but the store was empty. The lights flickered, then died, plunging us into darkness. The static stopped, replaced by a faint whisper outside the window. "Sarah, open up." My breath caught, my hands shaking so badly I dropped my phone. The blackout lasted 10 seconds, the silence suffocating. I fumbled for the emergency flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on, though I'd tested it that day. The door to the back rattled like someone was testing the lock, and I heard a low laugh, chilling my bones. When the lights returned, the counter had a new post-it. "You can't hide." I screamed for Mike, who was pale, clutching his phone, saying the cops were close. The cameras showed nothing, no man, no sedan, but a shadow lingered at the edge of the drive-through feed, motionless, watching. The police arrived, searched the lot, and found the sedan in an alley nearby. Engine warm, no fingerprints. The slip was fake. No doctor, no record, just my name and a dosage that would have knocked me out for hours. The post-it had a faded watermark, maybe a logo, but too faint to read. The cops called it a targeted scam, maybe drug seekers, but I wasn't buying it. My name isn't on my badge, and I don't post about my job online. How did they know me? They found scratches on the drive-through window, deep like claw marks with "Take It" etched beside them. Mike made me work the next night, saying we couldn't close for some creep. At 1 a.m., I found another pill bottle on the counter labeled Sarah Elizabeth, filled with sugar pills. The cameras showed nothing, but the counter camera's lens was smudged, like someone had touched it. I quit on the spot, shoving my apron at Mike, who looked away, muttering about staffing issues. 2 days later, a package arrived at my apartment, same painkillers addressed to Sarah Elizabeth from a Rite Aid that closed a decade ago. The cops are investigating, but the package had no sender, just another post-it. We're closer now.